What up, ladies and gentlemen, Chen here, bringing you guys another video. Today's video is going to be more of a guide rather than a gameplay. We are going to showcase exactly my early game macro to pretty much determine the game. And as you can see, this game ended in 15 minutes. So this is a really good guide for you guys. So if you are curious on how to, determine games as a mid laner in the very early game, this video will help you out. If you find this video useful, make sure to smash the like button, join the Crimson Pack by subscribing to the channel. Let's get right into it. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, before we start with the actual gameplay, a couple things you have to assess in the mid lane. First and foremost, your matchup and the jungle matchup. In our case, it is Viego versus Wukong. This is a very versatile matchup. Pretty much it can go either way, but because Viego is melee and he is able to abuse a lot of melee champions, he does have an upper edge in the early game. Now in the jungle, we have Rammus versus Evelynn. This is a super free no-brainer as to who wins this. Rammus is going to demolish her early game, and that is the knowledge that we're applying. So, pay close attention as to where they started. We can see that bot lane is going to be leashing for Evelynn, as you can see. And you can tell this by Malphite inevitably showing up early. So, what does this mean? Well, in obvious cases, it means Evelynn is starting bot side. And quick note, this is not low elo, this is very high elo. High masters, low GM. This is of the top of elos, which means if I can apply it here, you can apply it in any sort of elo. Maybe not iron though, those people don't have their monitors on, but pretty much you can apply it in any elo. So, as you can see, I am getting the shove. This is just the nature of the lane. In order for macro to really work, I'm going to be speaking about what I did this game, and then what majority of the times is going to happen, right? Within the scuttle fights. But in this game, because I knew jungle would have more pressure, we're looking for early aggression. As you can see, I get level 2 first. I'm also keeping the wave roughly in his side of the map. And you're going to see that Rammus is posturing for an invade, so I get the word off to see if the camps are here. And because we know the camps are here, we can only estimate that Evelynn is still right around here, or maybe maybe she's walking right around here. Either way, this camp is pretty much free. If Evelynn shows up here, I can easily rotate and we steal a camp from her. And remember, you have to assess the situation. Evelynn is a very heavy farming jungler who relies on reaching level 6 ASAP. So stealing any sort of camp is such a huge advantage. So as we steal this camp, you can see that she's about to throw a Q. This tells me that she is still here, right? But she's very late to it. We already stole the whole full camp. What's gonna happen here? Rammus is backing, but I know that her red's up. And look at my pressure. Right? So I ping Rammus to go in for red buff. And look at how the posturing goes. He goes for the red buff, and Evelynn just can't play the game. Like, imagine you're playing a heavy reliant level 6 jungler, and you're about to lose 2 camps to a fucking Rammus, by the way. It's super painful. I'm pinging that I'm coming. I have infinite prio. And I'm using my ability as a champion that has more prio, a champion that has more prowess, and understanding jungle matchup to steal this red. So, we end up getting the red. She has no vision. And it's just a free kill. Evelynn does nothing early game. Beautiful, pick up first blood. And the game's done. In 3 minutes, the game is done. Why? Because Rammus is not supposed to steal 2 camps from Evelynn. He's not supposed to be ending up a camp ahead of Evelynn, right? And I don't really have to show you the rest of the game. You can see, based on my pressure, that Rammus is pretty much keeping up with CS, and we invade Evelynn back to back to back, to a point where she has 49 CS in 8 minutes. Where naturally, she would have roughly maybe, like 60-ish And she would not be level 6 at 8 minutes. She would probably be level 7 or level 8, depending on how fed she was. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, she was forced to go for desperate plays because we're constantly stealing her bottom and her top camps. Like, we stole her blue here as well. And she really just can't play the game. And that's all because of me setting up with my jungler and going for this sort of invade. Now, real quick, I do want to mention the other side of the story in terms of macro play and what you can do. Now, I don't have a gameplay to show for this, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Towards the 3 minute and 15, same assessment, right? If it's Rammus versus Evelynn, and we didn't go for this invade, you know, she got her camps, and we're fighting for top scuttle, we win this top scuttle as well. So we would have still determined the game because we would have won this team fight at around 3 minute and 15, 3 minute 20, because Rammus is going to be pathing here, and Evelynn is inevitably going to be here. Now, what would happen if she decides correctly to not go for this? Well, she would try to go for this, in which I would deny her this, and we get double crab. Now, we all know how junglers feel about getting double crab. It is horrendous, and the game is pretty much over. This is how you apply mid lane macro to influence and impact the game at such an early stage. This is pretty much all that mid lane is good for, right? We always hear, you know, pros complaining, a lot of people complaining about mid lane and the state of mid lane right now. It's because it's true. It is pretty much just an early game backup, right? Sidekick for the jungler. And, I mean, that's true. Undeniable. In the early few minutes, you pretty much can determine the game with the jungler. Now, in a lot of cases, if it goes past the early game without you making some sort of critical play, which doesn't happen every game because you do need a decent jungler to do so, if that doesn't happen, mid lane is pretty much determined by jungle diff, right? That's just known fact in Season 11, and it kind of sucks, but knowing this, you really want to assert pressure, assert calls to invade, and that's what happened this game. As you can see, Evelynn just is extremely behind 0-5. She can't play the game. Rammus is getting infinite pressure. I'm getting infinite pressure because I'm winning lane so hard, and that translates to bot being ahead, top being ahead, FF15, right? So, as I was saying earlier, this is the perfect macro call. If you see that Evelynn started bot, Rammus started bot, Rammus obviously beats Evelynn, you just make this call. Evelynn can't play the game, right? And if this isn't the case, you make the call to go for scuttles, and once again, you impact through perfect macro to determine the game. Because in jungle determined games in Season 11, not mid lane, so you have to be very cognizant. This is why I stopped playing Vlad as much, because Vlad is very selfish in lane. He kind of has to be to actually be effective. Meanwhile, Viego, I will gladly sack a couple waves to ensure my jungle is ahead, right? And before you say like, oh, my jungler is brain dead, whatever. This guy is a Thresh one trick, by the way. First timing Rammus in rank. I honestly wanted to dodge. But thankfully, because of his champion and because of my shot calls, we're still able to deny this Evelynn one trick. So, sure, your jungler can be brain dead, but at the end of the day, you can still apply these messages. Even if your jungler is brain dead and didn't want to go for this invade, I promise you, they are going to go for the scuttle, no matter what. Like, junglers are just brain dead. They're going to go for the scuttle, in which you can move and rotate top and help with the scuttle. And then if Evelynn is like, after her full clear, she'll be right around here, right? She's going to be walking around here. If we finish the scuttle, we just go straight for the bot scuttle. Double scuttle, game's over at 4 minutes, right? So that is how you use perfect mid lane macro, especially in higher elo, to just absolutely determine the game. Because of that invade and first blood, the game is pretty much over. Because Evelynn subsequently can't gank for top, can't gank for mid, can't gank for bot, and they're all just going to end, right? So yeah. That is pretty much the video. Hopefully you guys learned something from it. It can be applied in many different situations. It doesn't even have to be Viego. Pretty much any champion with early game prowess, or not even early game prowess. I mean, Vladimir could technically go for this play as well, and I just follow up with Rammus' CC, and we do the same thing. So it's not even prowess, it's just macro, alright? And this is how macro win games. A lot of people don't understand macro, and a lot of people don't even know macro for what it is. They're just a very mechanical player, and they're climbing through being a better player mechanically and outplaying, etc. That works. You know, that does work. But macro can win games too, and macro can win games significantly easier, in my opinion. And that's how I got to GM, and that's how hopefully I will reach Challenger. Hope you guys learned something. If you did, make sure to smash the like button. Join the Crimson Pack by subscribing to the channel. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all have a great day. Chen out.